Wilson. I'm a creative director and graphic designer. Sometimes I'm a photographer, sometimes I make videos. I specialise in UI or user interaction design. The most common device people see things online is a phone. So I spend most of my days designing on screen for screens. I started my career in print, in newspapers and magazines. My favourite magazine is Little White Lies. So I have a special connection with the magazine. Back in the early 2000s, I went to show my portfolio around London, probably a pretty terrible portfolio then. One of the magazines we went to visit was called ETERNA LUT. The two designers there at the time were kind enough to give us a portfolio review and show us around. So fast forward a couple of years and the guys decided to launch their own magazine, which was based on the Final Year University project, this independent film magazine that then became Little White Lies, which I believe launched in 2005. So in this first issue, we've got this heavily stylized illustration of Bill Murray as Steve Zissou, playing Steve Zissou in The Life Aquatic, which would actually go on to become one of my favourite films later on. So they quite often opted for illustration over photography on the covers and throughout the magazine itself, but the photography, typography and illustration were beautifully interweaved all the way through all the issues of this magazine. They always used a three-part scoring system: anticipation, enjoyment, in retrospect. The maximum score of 5 in each case. In the earlier issues, kind of going with this Western font, then moved on to this sort of geometric sans in later issues. Can't remember the name of that font, it's driving me absolutely crazy, and I definitely had it bookmarked. I'm going to have to dig it out one day and see what that is. It's been printed on this nice toothy uncoated stock as well. I'm sure the designers will understand that the idea of getting something back on glossy paper is just enough to make the skin crawl. Oh god, it just smells good, you know? The designers will know exactly what I'm talking about. Getting something back from the printers, just that sort of reek of ink. What really brings the magazine to life for me is the custom typography. Typography was specifically made to match that issue, probably at a great investment in time. Issues were bi-monthly, but when you're creating typefaces carved out of balsa wood and printed every time, for example like in this Lawless issue, it's going to take a little while. One of the most powerful covers for me is the Black Swan issue. This beautiful delicate pencil drawing cut in half by this bold and brutal typography. I believe the cover was a collaboration between one of the art directors, Paul Willoughby, and graphic designer David Carson. Or even the Man on Wire issue, which I seem to remember buying at Boarded Books. The story of Philippe Petit, the man who high-wire walked illegally across the Twin Towers. This issue's headlines formed out bent coat hanger wires. The creativity seemed to know no bounds when it came to typography, illustration and photography. So not to confuse the road with on the road, this issue must have nearly killed the writers. The whole thing was actually hammered out on a typewriter with one giant piece of paper coming out of it. The illustrators worked on the same piece of paper before the whole thing was photographed and put back together again. There's a video online of them doing this somewhere if you want to look for it. So for me it's hard to comment on the editorial prowess of Little White Lies because I'm not a writer. But as a consumer I found them captivating, hard to put down once I picked one up. Particular favourites included 2011's Drive featuring Ryan Gosling. Section 2 dives into features about nighttime driving in LA, real life stunt drivers, how the film's composed to set the right tone for that neon washed synth soundtrack. So as I mentioned before, I typically design for web now. No two screens are the same, no two devices are the same. But in print, a page is a page. It's got 4 edges, a spine in the middle, and you go from page to page, to go from article to article. It's pretty difficult to get lost inside of a magazine or a book. So online, a lot of the opposite is true. We're still dealing with human behaviour issues. So the time we spend working this out cuts down on the time when we could be creative. So I still come back to magazines like Little White Lies for inspiration. This inspired the kind of design I like now. It was, and still is, trendless. There's no necessary effects or filters. It just concentrates on layout, typography, illustration, and good writing. You're allowed to break the rules, but you have to be able to master the basics first. So thank you for listening. What's your favourite magazine?